governor supports the Calvin Cliffs expansion. The Public Service Commission approved the certificate of need for Calvin Cliffs expansion. The Calvin Cliffs expansion per se is not the issue. Now, I'm not trying to avoid the issue. I appreciate that the ability to do it is inextricably tied to the acquisition by EDF. Nonetheless, and I appreciate what the folks from Constellation have to say, the governor didn't declare that the Public Service Commission had authority. The Circuit Court declared that. That was a finding in court. We've maintained from the beginning that this acquisition does require Public Service Commission approval. So the idea that somehow or another that's a tenuous assertion is incorrect. It's been upheld by the courts, and in fact, the parties are moving forward to get the approval from the Public Service Commission. And as regards the expedition of the hearing it has been handled. In the time schedule you heard today was accurate. Actually, the Public Service Commission is meeting on a very accelerated and lengthy schedule. They're meeting, at 10 p.m. or in the evenings to conduct these hearings, which by their nature are complicated with 21 technical witnesses, including many from the applicant, who obviously has to have the opportunity to make their case as well. So speed is not the only value here. You have to have a thorough and appropriate public hearing. The second thing I think we need to do is distinguish between what's at issue in terms of Public Service Commission approval. That is an obligation of the applicant, of Constellation, EDF, BG, depending on the issue. It's their burden to get their approval. As regards any deal, but when people start talking about a deal, what they're in fact discussing is whether or not the administration of the government would enter into a proposal that agreed to by both parties that would be submitted to the Public Service Commission for approval. And in those negotiations, it is true that we have had strong views on the role of executive compensation in that. Now, Rod made a statement that he doesn't really care. Well, and that's fair. It's a fair comment. But he isn't being asked to sign off on it. The governor is, on all aspects of it. And there are aspects of the arrangement that if he has to put his name on it, basically, if he has to agree to this in order to submit it, then there are certain elements of it that he would want in any such agreement. Doesn't mean the other side has to agree to it, but if they want an agreement, these are our terms. Now, you all negotiate all the time, and I think you would appreciate that it's not a negotiation to accept whatever the other side submits to you and say sign it. And that has not been our position. It won't be our position. Now, that's not to say we haven't had fruitful and constructive conversations, particularly with EDF, on this. But it's, and I would, I appreciate all the work that you do. I appreciate your point of view. I appreciate the ability to be forceful in focusing on the highlights of your argument and making them. But I ask you to understand that there's a lot at stake here. As important as Calvert Cliffs is, as important as the jobs are, the rate structure of BG&E, its effect on the consumers, its effect on the finances of the company in total, are important issues as well. And one of the key issues the Public Service Commission has to address, and that issue is will the financial support for the subsidiary, which is the EDF is acquiring 49+% of, have a financial effect on BG&E and the ratepayers, which is another subsidiary owned by Constellation. And that is a complex financial issue. I would no more presume to, and I'm an attorney. I've been one for 40 years. I would no more presume to say Constellation, EDF have no issues. There's nothing that that they could argue that would persuade me that they're wrong on every element, without having read the briefs, without having heard the witnesses, without having evaluated the testimony. In the same fashion, I think it's frankly foolhardy to reach a conclusion without having done the same in terms of the other testimony before the Public Service Commission. This is a long process. As you all have been in negotiations yourself, in the doldrums of negotiation, things look a lot different than they do at the end. So our, frankly, and I think we've indicated this, it's been an on and off again relationship, but during it, we've always been willing to negotiate. We've not been willing to agree just to whatever's put in front of us, but we have been willing to negotiate. We do have strong views about a number of terms have been settled. As for the settlement, Constellation is perfectly free to do what they are doing, which is pursuing the approval from the Public Service Commission. And for those of you who have been on jobs that have had to get approvals of all types, that's their obligation. They'll continue to do it. They'll have to prove their case. It's not our obligation to prove their case for them or to excuse them from having to prove it. So I hope that makes clear where we're coming from on this. This is not opposition to Calvert Cliffs. We actually think Calvert Cliffs is an excellent idea. We've always supported it. We have to think Project Labor Agreement for Calvert Cliffs is an excellent idea. We support that as well. It doesn't mean, though, that just because of that, we can turn a blind eye to all these other issues which have to be addressed as well. And that's not to say, Constellation and EDF can't address them. They can, and they're attempting to, and I don't want to, make this any more rancorous than it has to be. I appreciate that they have to go through a process as well. They have to evaluate what proffers they make, and we're perfectly content to allow them to make their own decisions at their own time as we wait. If there's no settlement, the Public Service Commission will make a decision, and rather expeditiously. At that point, EDF and Constellation can make, as energy companies often do, make their business judgments based on what the regulatory requirements are. It is a regulated industry. That's a fact of life. And frankly, it's necessary to be a regulated industry because of its very nature. Let me move on from Calvert Cliffs and to AES. Once again, I think this is an important one where we need to keep not turning a deaf ear to each other. And I like to think we have not done. The governor has a long-standing position on this that dates back years. He has strong reservations about some of the safety elements of the proposal, and in the past has opposed it. As recently as a few months ago, at Rod's request, I facilitated a large group. Some of the folks in the room were here. I think we had like 20 folks, the coalition all came down. And had a very good discussion with the governor about it. Now, whether or not he changed his mind doesn't really change the fact that this is once again a complicated process.